Rachel seems to be the same side.
That's.
I know it's hard to get across Manchester.
So.
It's good to get the bus. Nobody's gonna step in front of that. They saw Chris coming, they were like.
They were waiting for us. All right. October 29th, 2024, Board of Directors meeting for Manhattan Area Technical College. I am your substitute. And I will probably never be able to run a meeting as well as Brett. I'll do my best. What's that?
You did well with the cow.
I didn't slam it anyway. We have any introductions tonight?
Beth is here. You're gonna be hearing from her later on adult ed, and we might have a couple more faculty showing up on adult ed as well. I think they're trying to get here from Manhattan.
Okay. And do we have any agenda revisions that have not already been included in the board packet? Nope, we're good. Okay. Give an opportunity then for anybody to comment or respond to the consent agenda. Any comments or questions about the consent agenda from last month's meeting?
I just had one question. The front entrance gate app, number 2. Josh, is that what we thought that thing was gonna be?
Are we looking at?
that?
Front entrance
It's
pay
not
up to.
done.
Yeah, that's not the total package, no. There'll be another, we're expecting another payout still waiting on finishing up some things, so that's not
What was the total? I forget the-
3, so that 312.
I was thinking it was.
It was my understanding that there were capital outlay funds allocated to
Yeah,
that.
we had 120 carried over from last year. Last year's capital outlay, and then the rest is from this year's capital outlay.
Any other questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Kara, did I misspeak on that total? I got so many numbers in my head.
I think you're right.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So I can pull it up.
If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion to approve in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to general agenda. Looks like we've got a faculty senate update.
And Josh, if you could bring that up, please.
Okay.
So one of the things that we've been working on is the next board meeting, we're gonna probably try to get this to Susan quicker so we can put it in the packet. But we're with our division chairs and what we've done with the change of that, we talked about last meeting with policy. We're just kind of giving an update of things that we've been doing as faculty. First one is you can see there is a KCE WE classroom management student motivation. A bunch of the gen ed faculty are going to this to kind of help with the face-to-face, online, just kind of classroom management. So we're hoping to, see what we get from that. And then I know I'll probably talk with them and hopefully they can give an update to the rest of the faculty with the in-service. Because one of the things that we've talked about is when the faculty go to conferences and stuff like that, it's kind of nice to have an update of it. Because if college is paying for us to go, it's kind of nice to get an update and kind of disperse it amongst the college as well. I know Rachel, she's attending the IBEST training, because Jeff had brought up with his program that he needed more emphasis on the interpersonal skills. And I know talking with her the other day, she said that a lot of the programs, she could see them maybe moving more towards interpersonal communication as opposed to speech. But I think, again, one of the things that a lot of people need to really learn how to do is read the room. So childcare center groundbreaking. I don't really know a lot about that, but I do know, Carrie, you may know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Lisa attended, and it took place on, like I said, 10/9. And it seemed like it had a pretty decent turnout. Jim, did you go to as well?
College was mentioned. Our support.
The Fort Riley courses, I know Chris has been doing a bunch of stuff out there. We've had some faculty going out there, welding, business. I've got an adjunct that's gonna start a math class out there next semester. I think our faculty were kind of surprised with the layout of the classrooms. I think they kind of really appreciated our classrooms after being out there. I know when I taught at Barton Community College, one of the things we had to do at Barton was actually just take a personal Wi-Fi, so hotspot. And I mean, that may be what we're doing or using an owl or whatever. There's definitely a lot of stuff that we're gonna have to figure out there. And I was surprised to see, that they're wanting the math. My guess was probably tech math 1, 2. And then kind of talking with the new hire that we had, Emily, she worked at Barton with me. I was talking with her a little more, and Barton, most of their math classes are online. Almost all their gen eds now are online. I don't know if you kind of know the back history of it, but they used to have when I was there, there's a lot of full-time faculty. And then about 5 years ago, Great Bend said no more full-time faculty at Barton out there in Fort Riley. And that really, let's just say there's a lot of uproar amongst a lot of faculty I knew from there. One of the things they offer is LSEC classes. I don't know if you guys ever heard of LSEC classes. It's basically if you're in the military, your dependents get classes for free during the day, and the government pays for it. When I taught there, I wish they had a cap on it, because you could tell students could still get financial aid and get free classes, because we had habitual students that would hit the financial aid and then, they didn't show up to class, but they were there the next cycle. But they're 6-week classes. So one of the competitions we have out there is with them with free classes, but with online instructors, we're kind of, okay, well, maybe we can actually take advantage of that, because they want it in person. Because when I was there were times that my 6-week classes, I had over 100 students. And there was one year that as an adjunct, I taught 70 credit hours out there. So, yeah. Makes my.
Isn't that unethical?
Not normal, yeah, that's when HLC came in, and right when I left, that's when they had actually capped it, so I couldn't have gotten as many classes, and found an ATC. So Jim's happy about that. All right, so in the auto tech, we have their IMT had PAC meeting, approved the new curriculum. I know with curriculum, we're trying to bring in a whole bunch of new programs, stuff like that. So that one, I know Thomas, I don't think it's on there. Thomas and Jacob actually went to a conference in Orlando, and they just got back from that. And Carrie, what was that one about?
It was all about fabrication and welding processes. So.
And they happened to have it during HLC week. Just throwing it out there. So faculty do thank you for the visit, the HLC when they came, because we were right after you guys, and faculty senate was, and they said, well, the board talked about faculty senate and they knew about faculty senate. And I think they were kind of surprised because, a lot of the colleges, I don't think that faculty senate has a lot of, much of a voice as far as like amongst the board. So I think they were really pleased to and curious on how much we had a voice within faculty senate or amongst the board. So thank you guys. Construction, the EPD, they had a NOPTI testing, and if you go onto our Facebook post, Rachel did a Facebook post on that, and I thought did a beautiful job with it. I've got a lot of
Not just their
comments.
skills testing.
Yeah. And that was actually supposed to be right after HLC, and then it got pushed back to the week after, but, yeah. Doing some big things there. Josh, would you push that up? Thank you. So for the nursing, biosafety security summit, Marcy and Mark were at K-State. I know, I think that went well as far as I heard. I haven't got to talk to Marcy much, or Mark, but that we spent 2 days there, October 10th and 11th. And then adult ed, if you can, I'm not going to read through all of it, but the refugee literacy support. I know that one of the things ESL has done a lot of stuff, especially like with evening classes, and they don't start those until 6:30. And I know as a teacher, I've taught till 8:30 at night, and that's not fun. But so I think it's definitely helped as far as like their enrollment and stuff, doing the 6:30 to 8, so that way they can get more of those ESL students, because I think they probably have jobs during the day and stuff like that.
A lot of them work in restaurants and throughout the.
Yeah.
Food prep and everything.
So that's definitely, I've gotten to kind of experience that, because I usually leave about the time they're either starting or about halfway through their classes, and it looks like they're doing a great job with the 2 or 3 teachers. I think just 2 that do it, Lindsay and Michelle, is that right?
Evening,
Yeah, and but they split them up in the classrooms there where I'm at. And I mean, seems like the students are really engaged, really enjoying it. I always like to hear, they'll have classes during my class during the day, and they'll start chanting words. And my students like, we want to go over there. And I'm like, no, you can't go over there. And yes, it sounds fun, but yeah. But yeah, it gets to be pretty beneficial. And then the curriculum development. So one of the things I want to point out is that we've had 4 students that have transitioned from the English program to the MATC programs, from the ESL program. And I know even in the GED part, I've got some that will come over and are taking classes with me this semester. So we're going to do an update later, so I'll kind of elaborate a little bit more on that. Any questions from you guys? I don't think Jeff's on there, that I never got to talk to him. So.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No further questions, so we'll move on. Operations facilities update.
So I'll start with the front entrance project. I looked up that number, it was 312, 322. So from that payout you saw on this register, there'll be another one for more work completed, and then there'll probably be an additional one. The last holdup there is the sign. We kind of ran into a bottleneck with Shirley sign to finish that up. They're just backed up on a bunch of projects, so they're pushing on as hard as they can, but we're just trying to get that wrapped up. Once that's completed, that project will be completely done. I have another project we want to kind of go through and talk to. Are there any questions about that front entrance one before we move on to something else?
We had a cookout, it worked great.
I want to hear after the first rainstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, we had those,
We-
yeah. The trick will be the leaves right now, make sure they're not covering the drain. But check in with us Thursday morning after tomorrow. So far, so good.
So the next thing I want to talk about, we brought up a few times, so we have a major water drainage issue on the west side of campus by our regional testing center. So if you look right here, so this is on the west side of our main building, and our regional testing center sits here. Water pools up extensively right in this area, is really flat. There used to be a water drain basin that was installed here before any of our time that doesn't even hook to anything. It's just got surrounded by rock and then fills up with water and then is just slowly supposed to drain out of there. It never does and it can't keep up. So that water pools here and starts pushing in towards the regional testing center. And then even more concern, it pools and starts to push in against our main campus building and can even get into the TLC with a really, really heavy rain. So we've been looking at options to address that. Since BHS was already here doing work for us, we started out working with them to come up with some ideas, and they brought in Olson to take a look, and they have proposed a plan here.
That basin he mentioned, it does do a great job of breeding mosquitoes.
Yeah. Let's see, which one is?
The occasional frogs, snakes.
So we're looking at the same view here, and basically, the idea would to be up at this closest part to the building, I believe they call it a swale, of kind of it's still grass, but just fixed in to be able to start the drainage of the water there. And then, get underneath across the sidewalk here. There's a sidewalk, so there'd be a drainage tube under there as well as a grate over the top of that sidewalk. And then it goes into a concrete trickle. So it'll be kind of no curb or anything. It would be level with the ground, but a concrete path with just a real slight angle to be able to carry more of that water along here, which would then go into a drain pipe, go under this other sidewalk, into a drain here that would drain all that water as well as groundwater into that drain, which then connects out. We have a main sewer drain line or wastewater line or right out here that would connect in, and then that takes it on out. So the idea there would be able to get all this water away from this area and hopefully get it on around the building back into our drainage spot instead of just pooling up here. Olson put this together. BHS put together a pricing proposal to complete that work, which looks like so. We had talked about this on the budget side. You know, the work that they would perform there, if that building were to be taken out and replaced, some of that may be reused, but the reality is some of this may then have to be redone again to where it wouldn't be that beneficial, but who knows what that timeline would really look like. That building is one that we continue to use heavily and hope to stretch it as long as we can, as well as try to figure out to protect the main building and the TLC. So with this plan they put together on this budget, the one item there, this building 700 improvements was actually specific to the building. Everything from tying in all the drain spouts around back out to the main drain line, new door seals, more ventilation, things that would be specific to the building that in my opinion, we really would need to do at this time, and would look at, see how it improved just from the drainage improvement and then go from there. That's always an add-on option down the road. If the board were agree that if we think this is something we should move forward with, we could either continue and tack it on with the project that we've been working with BHS, or we could put this together as a package and put it out for bid, take bids on it for a few weeks and see if we get any other interests that would want to maybe perform the work. As far as the budget side goes, Kara has been looking at, we're going to have enough room in our capital outlay budget for this fiscal year that we could squeeze this in.
We haven't had mold in 700, but we've had odor issues from time to time because of the water sitting around that area. And as a testing center, we bring in a lot of outside clients, visitors. So that impression is kind of a factor as well.
What would be the proposed timeline on when you would want to get started with the project and how long it would take to complete it?
I think ideally, it's something we would tackle over this fall and winter as weather permits. Just our only deadline would be just to get ahead of those spring rains. I think. And they haven't given me a definite timeline on how long it would take them to get in there and do it, but I don't think it would be significant because it's mostly just groundwork.
Like you mentioned, we could put it up for bid, or if you want, if you can just sole source under VHS, we can do that too. This would just help protect that building since we're going to use it for a while.
The one minor sticking point maybe with putting it out for bids is they've got the design fees included in their budget, so I'm guessing they probably already have a little bit of time and help with Olson's on it, so it's not very fair to.
I talked to him about that and basically they're okay if we basically would just include that design in the package as requested. Olson's gonna get their cut. I mean, to your point, and I had the same feeling about VHS has done quite a bit of groundwork on this just to help us get to this point.
Sure.
But yeah, we would just include that Olson design and let the bids price to that sheet is what my thought was. And I mean, we may get some good competitive bids or VHS may be the only one that, I don't know, but I'm happy to do that. If we want to go that route, we could leave it out for 14, 21 days, something like that and see where it goes or just move forward.
No, I mean, I think probably like Parsons or something. I think it's just a good practice to do that. It might, in the future, you might want to just not get so far over the skis that they're a great partner and we don't want to take them off by pulling work away from them. But I do think on a number of this size, it's probably a good practice for us to get through this.
Okay.
We could get.
Or at least try.
Yeah, at least try.
Okay.
I
What do
can
you-
give you some names to some companies.
What do you think, say realistic, length of time for RFP for something of this size to stay open? You think 21
Look at
days?
it till the day before anyway.
Right.
Oh.
I mean, we've got time realistically if we're staying ahead of those those spring rains. I think,
Yeah, I
next-
mean, nothing in there's really, except for maybe concrete, maybe that can be done in the spring, 3 weeks.
Okay.
That's
That's
right.
good.
I stand by my earlier.
If I hustled it out, got it out. Yeah, maybe we could, if we get it out in a hurry, we could, which shouldn't take long to put it together, we could maybe get it back by the next board meeting if we really push and then be able to go for an approval from there. Okay. All right.
Is there any of that work that could be done with like Job Corps or something like that? Or is that can be a terrible idea and that's okay? I just.
No, it's not a bad idea. There are some liability issues.
Sure,
Cause I even asked Josh, could our construction
Yeah.
program take anything on?
yeah,
But part of that's also where are they in their curriculum?
sure.
Yeah, I think definitely like some of the, potentially, we could have a conversation about like some of the concrete removal.
Yeah.
Some of those pieces that are pretty big line items on here that we could definitely look into. And then at this point, I would recommend we just cut this out as a stage 2 entirely and see how much it improves just based on fixing the drainage. And don't put any more money on the actual building itself until we see how it works.
I thought you had a concern about just the aesthetics and impression of not doing anything with that 700 building, so.
Well, it's not the building, it's the smell and the water issues and the bugs. The people, when our guests are walking in to register for tests, take tests, et cetera, that, we want to treat this so the facility is safe, but it also is that issue, frankly, of the smell and the bugs and the laying water because of that basin. I don't remember what they told us on how slow it is to let the water flow through, but that thing was so full this year The wildlife was amazing. And there were times when it was coming up over the top of that basin. And it was covering the sidewalk and heading toward the main building, so it's more fixing that, which fixed the other issues that affects the visitors coming to the building.
And we have that gazebo there with the outdoor seating that's basically unusable for a large chunk of the year, just water sitting there.
We did have trouble for a while with, was it skunks?
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
animals, yeah.
yeah, some kind of critters.
For some reason, our biology teacher didn't want them.
Sure seen baby.
I don't know, for that amount added to the project to do the 700 building, I guess it probably would be my suggestion that you just go ahead and do it all at once based upon the amount and not defer that if it has definitely been an issue. I don't know why you wouldn't want to deal with it now and put it up until later, but I'm just one voice on the board, so.
Just with the way you have the scope, that may be difficult to get. You know, one contractor to do all of that, whereas you could probably peel out that building 700 improvements and get. A utility contractor to do everything else.
Yeah, I think as far as
I mean, still do it, but maybe you're just,
I think for sure VHS would probably pull this out of the bid to the RFP because I think the RFP may request the drainage issue itself. And this was just, they went and did a walkthrough of that building specifically, so we could do this and this and this just to improve the building footprint. So we could have them leave that on as an add-on separate from the proposal and then see if we want to tack it on.
We could see when the construction program, if there'd be something they want to take on, when it fits in their curriculum.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, there's as simple as adding some cutouts for some more ventilation, some pretty simple things that maybe we could look at our construction program doing. Some of them are working alongside them or something.
So would you say that administration is in favor of putting the thing out for RFP based upon the amount being what it is and bringing that for some type of action item at the next month's board meeting?
That's what we will aim at.
two more questions. Is this proposed to come out of capital outlay or is it gonna come out of our, okay. So our reserve budget, this is separate.
Yeah.
And then what, do you know what Olson designed the, I'll say the hydraulics, but I don't know if that's probably the right, you know, for that small area, but I just would hate for us to spend that and then you still got a bottleneck somewhere in the water's not getting out of there quick enough.
Are you asking who from Olson did it?
Not necessarily who, we haven't had any rain lately, so
Sure.
I'm just curious how they came up with some of their design.
Yeah,
I mean, the one thing that helps is that outlet from the city up by the apartments to tie into that. So at first, for a long time, we were afraid we'd have to trench this thing around the north side of the property and down towards Seth Childs. And the city would have been happy with that, so this comes out better.
A lot of times they're designing like to 100-year, 500-year flood type water.
Right.
Type stuff, so. Yeah, just want to make sure we're
No,
not just
no.
doing some light that's gonna be.
no, for sure. Maybe what I do on top of it, because he walked me through it a couple of times, but some of those specifics on making us confident in that how it's going to work and that it is going to work. Let me get some bullet points to that and I'll bring that to the meeting. I'll have them their proposal price it to this sheet, but based on that he gives us back some good evidence of that this is gonna work.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments related to that project? I guess we don't need to do anything as far as board action on it. So. Okay. Any other facilities, topics? Josh, if you want to bring up?
No, that was the big one.
Okay. Finance, is that gonna be the VHE report? Is that gonna be Kara or Josh?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll let Josh do that one.
These are getting much simpler. So we did have, the pay app that you're seeing come through this. The big difference again to point out is now that you see any of the funding mechanisms for these are no longer from the loan because the loan has been fully expended. We're to the tail end of the project, so they're finishing up, signage, the MCM, the donor wall stuff. You saw they're still working on some AV things. Jim and I have a meeting with the kind of the last big unknown of really putting together the total final pricing of is finishing the BSL-3 lab. So BHS is gonna meet with us tomorrow to go through some specifics on that. It's kind of been a circle project of who's donating what and what equipment's being donated, what's gonna be the labor and who's all pitching in. So they've been trying to put that together and they finally have it nailed down. So we'll have some good budgetary numbers on that to talk about at the next board meeting. But you see the interest payments are starting to come through, which are tied to the foundation. BBN also is at the very tail end of finishing up their fees. So we're about wrapped up with these.
And on the BSL lab, we've talked to, depending on the timing of chamber / K-stage / economic development projects and the cost of what that, to finish that off is going to be, we may be able to do that in stages this fiscal year, next fiscal years. Have some more funds to work with and not strain everything this year. Right now, I'm not seeing where any of that has to be up and running before next fall at the earliest. So we've got a little grace period to play with how we do that. It also gives us more time to wait for some grants.
So Josh, tell us again on the 2.2 million that you got there is remaining, how that number is calculated, how you come up with that number and what that represents.
So that's based off the original total project budget. And that is just where we're at currently on the project underneath of that total. But there's been just things that we ended up not doing. A lot of that was the FF&E package that was set out beside this that we ended up rolling into savings in the project. So that's not a separate line item anymore. So I just look, there is some numbers in there, just a couple to finish up the remaining pay apps, small things, finishing the building, and then the big number that would still eat out of that chunk is BSL lab. When and if we decide to, whenever we move forward on that piece, the rest is essentially savings. Just under the total project scope budget from the very beginning.
And when we get into the next report with Carrie, they'll see more detail on, I shouldn't say detail, but you'll see that breakdown of this year's budget and what we have in savings and reserve.
So with that, with these expenditures coming out of, well, the bigger one coming out of general funds, is that creating any kind of a pinch on operating cash?
Yeah, she plugged in, Kara plugged in the remainder estimated of what BHS ballparked us for the rest of the pay apps when she built the budget out for this year.
We still have just under $750,000 in the foundation.
Any other questions or comments on that? Kara, are you doing the actual financial?
Yes. And I think Josh might be an Excel doc. Maybe.
That means. I can't see
What are we looking for? Actual.
Actuals, but
Yeah, but it should be an Excel. If not, I can just read all of it.
Did maybe just get converted? That look right?
I converted it, yeah, but if.
It's okay. There's a few comments, but I can just read the comments.
Her most recent one is in the attachments.
Is that where I'm at? I think that's where I'm at. Yep,
up to,
up to. There you go.
Okay. So you've probably seen later in the agenda too, we have financial condition, which is just the quarterly actuals. So I just kind of went ahead and combined it all into one document just so that we can kind of look at everything all together. So what you see here is the first column is going to be the actuals for this first quarter. Right next to that, then is just the approved budget for fiscal year 25. We included a column just so you can see the percentage of, revenues we brought in so far or expenses that we spent. And then that last column is just going to be the actuals from fiscal year 24. So just some of the things I was gonna kind of bring forward, you will see for the actual quarter column under Perkins, it's at 0, and that's just because you will see the first drawdown in the second quarter, because that's a reimbursement grant. So we just haven't drawn any down yet, but we'll still expect to receive the whole 103,000. You'll also see the Excel and CTE actuals for this quarter is 0 because we received that payout next month. So I think we have received it now in October. So you'll see that on the next quarterly report. You can kind of look through everything and see as far as revenues, everything's coming in as expected. Expenses were pretty much right on track for spending 25% just the first quarter. Really nowhere that we've gone over. If you do look, you'll see that for capital outlay for facilities and equipment expenditures, it does appear that we've spent 45%. But that does include that 120,000 in capital outlay funds from last year and that we rolled into this year and we've already expended those. So we still have some capital outlay remaining. Another thing I was going to mention is reserves. We have it marked at 0 right now just because we haven't set anything aside yet, but we are still on track to put away the 500,000 that we planned on. If you look at the actuals from fiscal year 24, you'll see that $1 million in reserves. So that is currently in a separate account. That is what we put into the CD at the beginning of this year. So that was just funds remaining from last year that we put into reserves.
Which is creating our interest income.
Yeah.
So if you go up to the non-contractual expenses. Yep, so what's that third row of numbers, the 54? 219, there's just nothing over there.
Right there.
Yep, the one under it.
Right below program course.
Right.
That's a great question.
Just missing its description.
Yeah.
Something there.
It's in the Chiefs and Bobcat.
Jim's Diet Coke expenses.
No, they're higher than that.
Yeah, something weird must have happened in the formatting, but that's the administrative and departmental supplies / marketing events.
Good catch.
Yes.
So out of the funds that you budgeted, revenue funds that you budgeted for the Excel and CTE, where in the expenditures, what line item do those reimbursements go back out?
They will come out of it's contractual, so it's the outside partnership / consulting. So that's why you'll see that one is only at 3% expense so far. We've only spent 16,793 because we won't pay those out till later in the year.
The funds we'll be getting for Excel and CTE, there's not enough money in the K-Board budget to meet what all the schools earned. So it's been prorated, which is not uncommon. And the regions will be asking the governor's staff for a supplemental budget expenditure to go in to fill the gap. So you may see a report that looks less than what was originally anticipated. That's because it was prorated. Schools know when that happens to us, they get a prorated amount as well. And then if the governor does do the supplemental and fills in the gap, then that'll be another expenditure after we get those funds. Working with all of the two-year colleges in the Cape that we're working on, what should be the funding level for Excel and CTE next year, as well as tiered and non-tiered. The Excel and CTE it's been pretty common that it gets prorated. So we're trying to anticipate those enrollment booms. State doesn't really think it might grow.
Any other questions on the financial report?
Hopefully this is giving you information.
Yeah, it's very helpful. Reorganizing it.
Is there any action required on this? No, just for reporting. All right, let's move on then to academics. Jim, you want to talk about your dinner review?
Yeah, so we did our dinner was great. We did our first attempt at having a dinner for the people on the advisory committees, and it was pretty well attended. What I was real pleased with was the feedback later, both from those in attendance and the faculty. So we will start doing this every fall. I think the faculty enjoy having someone else take care of the logistics with dinner, and then they can plan their advisory meeting afterward. But it allowed me to give folks an update about the college, where we are, what we're working on, things with Fort Riley with accreditation. We had a good turnout of faculty and staff interacting with the folks. So I think this will be a good way. Tim was there from the board, but I think as we plan that for next year, if you're available, please don't hesitate to join us. We keep building up that employer relationship, which is so vital to us. Anybody else want to comment? Okay, fine. That one's easy.
All right. Presentation by Chelsea.
Me. I sent my presentation to Cindy. Oh, I did.
Well, I don't have, can't do the Wi-Fi on my computer right now, so just let me pull
That's
this
okay.
in my email, give me this one.
That's okay, I can give a little introduction. So I'm Chelsea Weiss, and I'm part of the Gen Ed faculty. My primary subject is chemistry, however, I do also teach some math classes. I'm also in the works of developing a physics class as well. And then I also do some GED science as well, which I'm sure I'll get to talk about later.
Gosh, I just emailed that to you.
That's also partially my fault. Susie asked for it ahead of time and I didn't get it to her when she asked for it, so. And it looks long, it's 16 slides, but I don't have like 16 slides worth of lecture or anything.
Waiting.
And is that a smart board?
No.
I'm used to teaching with a smart board and touching.
It's in the other room. Brian had to have it in the other.
I mean, I've got one across the way too.
Probably because it has a big attachment, it might take a second.
Well, while that's loading, I can go ahead and give you a description of why I'm presenting. In August, myself and other faculty member Jared Nittler attended MicroWorks, which is part of the MicroWorks Foundation. And the curriculum is designed to help students prepare for the workforce, not necessarily in like the skills that we do with our mission, like learning how to do a particular trade, but the soft skills that are necessary to be successful in the workplace. I've also implemented some of those skills in my GED classroom. Some of our students really suffer or struggle with personal accountability. So I've been able to implement some of those concepts that I'll be going over in that curriculum as well.
Why don't can we do a agenda check? Is that, oh, there it is. Just needed me to start talking.
Yay. I appreciate your patience in wanted to include a slideshow so that you get an idea of the type of curriculum that is included with this program. Can I move the slides? I'm used to doing PowerPoints. I'm in teacher mode right now.
As long as you don't use it.
What do you think? If
I
you-
won't talk about math pathways if that helps.
Please, we're all just click.
Perfect. I got this one.
Stuff.
All right, so as I was mentioning, I attended a conference, this occurred at Wichita State at their tech center, which is pretty cool. Not as cool as ours, of course. But it was a fun experience where Jared Nittler and I were able to attend this training, and we attended as students with all of this curriculum. Mike Rowe developed this curriculum through his experiences, through his own journey in the workforce, along with his journey through the Dirty Jobs television show. Have you all seen it? Pretty good. And he came up with this acronym, SWEAT, which stands for Skill and Work Ethic Aren't Taboo. And this pledge is made up of 4 pillars, and those include work ethic, personal responsibility, delayed gratification, and positive attitude. And with those 4 pillars, he developed 12 statements that relate directly to those pillars. This is an example of the SWEAT pledge. I understand from where you're sitting, you probably can't read all of those because it's pretty small. But each of those 12 things relate to a lesson that again ties back into those 4 pillars. I've included some slides from the very first one, which is about gratitude and how you should be thankful for what you have and apply that in the workplace. As an instructor, I really appreciated the curriculum that's provided, and it requires little course development. So as an instructor, I don't have to do a whole bunch of legwork in order to make it workable. They also include access to Canvas content, and Canvas is the LMS system that we use to deliver content. And each lesson includes an instructor guide. This includes a lesson plan, a PowerPoint presentation, videos related to each lesson, and activities that are available both in person and virtually. So the curriculum is designed to be given in either format. Other things that are include some really great discussion and reflection questions as well. And of course, as I mentioned, each of these lessons relates directly to those 4 pillars. The picture is an example of the lesson guide that is provided for each thing. So it makes it pretty easy to follow. You could probably walk in, look at the instructor guide, and be able to instruct this material. The next few slides are related to what is included with lesson 1, which is the first statement, and it's all about gratitude. So for example, they talked about the expectations of participating in the class, and as students, what you are responsible for. And this is another thing that I have included with my GED students. And I think it's been somewhat effective. Yeah. Especially that first one, it's your choice to be here. Along with the cell phones in the classroom. Now, as instructors, when we were going through the training, they were a little bit more lenient, but they did direct it kind of like we were students in this class and what the expectations were while we were going through that curriculum. Other things include like the actual pledge that's related to it. Now, this is from Mike Rowe, and whether or not you agree or disagree with it, the sentiment is still there. And they also said that as the instructor of the class, we do have a little bit of leeway, but make sure we stick to what the point is of that particular pledge. After going over each of the pledges, there was a quote, like an inspirational quote that tied into the lesson, along with a video provided from Mike Rowe. And then it also had some really good activities that tie in as well. Okay. Some of the questions that were included, again, that was all included with the curriculum, was discussion questions. And I found these to be really useful and I think would be very good to have in a classroom setting. I personally think these would be better in an in-person format versus online, but that's just my personal preference. Because you can get some really good dialogue between students. Okay, just some more things related to that and tying in some of that information. And then also some personal experiences that allow students to talk to each other and tie in that pillar to the particular statement. Other things, I also tied in barriers on my GED class yesterday, particularly with attendance and how that related to how they were responsible for that attendance. And it kind of made them think, yeah, it is my responsibility and my problem for not being there and whatnot. So it relates back to the pledge. And then there's a reflection section. During the training, we had Canvas assignments related to this, where we would answer the questions on our own, and then the facilitator would grade our responses and give some feedback with that. While we were doing this activity, I also took notes to be like, is this a good thing to include and how to incorporate that onto our campus. Now, once students complete the entire program, they are awarded a certificate that says that they completed it and they can sign the sweat pledge as well. Does anyone have any questions about the curriculum or its purpose or anything like that?
5 of the 7 tech colleges in the state decided to adopt this, Wichita Tech's been using it for a couple of years. And, you know, it takes a little time, but we've all, in fact, we had discussions today about how students, people in general, feel entitled versus gratitude.
That is one of the entitlement thing is a big thing on there as well. It was also a good self-reflection, to be honest. Yeah, I am lucky to work where I work and have these opportunities and whatnot.
Parents of our students.
Did you get to meet Mike Rowe?
I did not. I did hear that he was at Wichita State a few weeks ago. Yeah. We also got to collaborate with some of the high schools in the area as well. And it was interesting to hear the high school perspective versus the college perspective.
So the intent with this is to implement it throughout, or is this just kind of?
We're looking at the option of throughout, or at least what are some programs where we have these issues like with GED or adult ed. One option is to look at each student who failed to make satisfactory academic progress. They're in danger of flunking out, whatever. But my experience is the more you can use this on the front end as an orientation, the better. The dilemma we're stuck in from the regents and the creditors side, they want us to reduce time to completion on programs as much as possible, which affects things like this that really can make a difference. So, you know, we're trying it in a few places, trying to work the kinks out, see what's the best way to do it. Hybrid, where they'd have some face-to-face would be great because of that interaction and that reflection. One of those things, you know, I wish we didn't have to do it, but we have to get their attention that they should be grateful.
That's something employers could easily get behind as well.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Good
Kelsey.
training. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your patience with my.
I'll send it out to everybody.
Like you're up.
Yes, I do not have a PowerPoint presentation. So I don't want to go after this, but so I want to provide an adult education update. I've asked a few people to be here. We also have just a couple of things to share. I've also asked that folks be here. Going to share tonight to be brief.
You look at me.
I'll give a little history on adult education, especially at Manhattan Tech, and then I'll go into a little more detail with this. So adult education is kind of the umbrella of both our GED program, high school diploma completion, and English as a second language program. It's a little different than the traditional college programs. It is a grant funded program that is under WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. And we're funded through federal and state funds and a local match. The federal funds are provided by AFLA, Adult Education Family Literacy.
Say with confidence, we believe you.
Yeah, right. And so that provides a good chunk, but we have to have a 50% match on that for funding. And then the state also kicks in a little bit. We do not have to have a match for that. And then we have local funding. The adult education initially started in Manhattan in 1936. This is just a group of volunteers got together and actually stuck together for the next 30 years. It became part of the school district in USD 323 in 1966. 2018, it moved over to Manhattan Tech under Jim and some other, the superintendent at the time. And we've had a lot of great success. We've graduated over 160 individuals since 2018. We have helped over 1,000 non-native speakers improve their English. We've helped them get jobs. We changed a lot of lives. I won't go into the successes. I've got all these fine folks here that'll go over it. The reason I'm providing this update is because the grant is a 5-year grant and we are currently in the last year of the grant. The new RFP is out. I'm working on it. It is due January 31st. I have zero concerns that we will not get it. I think I got that double negative in there, right? We're one of 19 adult education programs in the state. We're one of the model, I don't know how to brag about ourselves. People ask us a lot of questions sometimes about like, how can we help other programs? I actually mentor 2 programs in the state. So we're an awesome program.
We're the best 2-year college in the nation.
That's right. Adult education has become really integral to Manhattan Tech as it's grown from just this little standalone program of send somebody who just needs to get their diploma or learn English to what's that next step? How can they go into our programs? What supports do they need while they're in the program? And so now we have it set up where students can be enrolled in GED or the English as a second language while they're working on something. The Afghan resettlement folks have really embraced this. MART has been a huge part of ever since we started working with them in 2022. That was weird to say. And we have a current individual in our HVAC program that was a dentist in Afghanistan, but we're supporting him with our English language classes while he's working his HVAC certificate. Anyways, last year the grant, we're trying to, previously when we were first brought over from the school district, we received a mill levy. We talked about this a little bit last year with the different fundings that were all happening at the same time. I met with the superintendents at 383. They are open to the discussion of this and present a proposal to their board. They're unsure if the current board of USD 383 would be amendable to this just because the current tax situation that's happening in Manhattan. Everyone's already kind of talking about taxes and mill levy would be a lot. I had a discussion with Jim, Kara, Josh about what would it look like to still have a partnership with the area school districts, but to be able to sustain it locally at Manhattan Tech. And so next month, I'll hopefully have a proposal for you all to kind of review and working with again, Kara, Josh, and Jim to say, this is how this is the next step. We no longer have to rely on tax dollars or USD 383. We can do this. Our students are going to get the benefit. Brian's going to probably talk a little bit about math pathways because right now we serve about 175 students for GED and English as a second language. There's a potential that we could see an increase of another 150 students because adult ed is now being asked at the state level to take on beginning and intermediate math or algebra. That part of our program is you can actually do our program with a high school diploma if you are deficient in the skills of math or reading. So there's a lot of things that are happening that I think we're positioned correctly to do. Again, I just wanted to kind of give you all the backstory on adult ed and then share some success. Jim, do you have anything to?
Yeah, I want to add 2 quick things. One, I cannot say enough about how much I respect this program and respect all of our employees for integrating this as part of the college. I've been at places where people are looked down upon because they didn't graduate high school and they're getting a GED. We take the opposite approach. and you've seen a graduation, they're crying their eyes out. But this is because the teachers that are here, the staff that are here, Beth, they believe in these people and they tell them, if you don't give up, we're not giving up on you. Second thing, this issue about not going after the mill levy. There are 2 or 3 states that will have a ballot initiative next week to do away with property tax or drastically reform property tax in their states. It's coming. And as we've discussed, and as I've been working with these folks and we're working on some future things to share, the more we can get less dependent on public funding, the better. I don't want to get caught in that balance. You know, like in North Dakota, they're going to vote on doing away with all property taxes at any governmental level. Well, what's your water bill going to jump to? What, you know, things still have to get paid. And with workforce as our mission, our ability to embrace these adult ed students, these refugees, it's a huge workforce component. So I'm, like I said, I'm so proud of what this college has done to embrace and get these people to be successful. And with that, we'll turn it over to the expert.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, please.
You said you're in the process of writing a video.
Yes.
What is that value? Is it another 5 years?
Yes, sorry, I'm so sorry. Yes, it's a new 5-year grant cycle. It's essentially continuing what we're doing. There's a lot of changes at the like slave level, so there are some additional funding pieces that are part of that. But I have to report all like the last 5+ years of data and all those things.
What's the total over the 5 years?
Similar to what it is now.
Yeah, so
The state increased funding for all of adult ed in the state by $100,000. 19 program.
Numbers off the top of my head, we received about 118,000 from the feds, 50,000 from the state, and then our local match was around 118,000. So roughly about a quarter
Per year.
Yeah, so just over $250,000 per year is what the program operates.
Thank you.
I get to go first. Alright. So as I mentioned earlier, I teach science, and we are the only institution that has a science prep section for our GED students. My goal is to not only prepare students to pass the GED, but to also have them be more scientifically literate so that they can make better decisions for themselves and their families. For example, on Monday, we had a lesson on what is natural. What does that mean? And how that is often exploited to get them to buy certain products. And then my goal for tomorrow is to take them in the lab and to synthesize, it's basically an essential oil or a flavoring that you could find. I do like to incorporate hands-on activities in class, and that is something that I think a lot of them do not get. Now, to be honest, that hands-on stuff isn't on the GED test, but the students enjoy coming to class and enjoy getting to do science with me. I also like to incorporate things that they're interested in, and one of the first things that we do is talk about topics that they want to learn about. Because if they give me ideas, I can make a science lesson on just about anything. Some of them get a little creative with the things that they want to talk about, but I am able to spin it and incorporate that. And I also like being able to trick them into doing math, because there's a lot of that tying in with science and math. And I tell them, tell Brian I made you guys do math today. And they reluctantly learn what math is. So I enjoy having these students, and I enjoy getting them interested in science and preparing them to be scientifically literate and to get past that GED.
Before, I'll give a little more background. I really should have made a PowerPoint. It's okay. So the background in our state, the GED is 4 subjects. So you have science, reasoning through language arts, fancy words for reading and writing, mathematics, and social studies. We have, like Chelsea said, we have a science class that's specifically for science. We have math, and then we do a reasoning through language arts and social studies together with Rachel. That's our comms teacher. We are a pretty unique program. A lot of other schools will do like 3-hour chunks and try and cram all 4 subjects into those 3 hours every day of the week. Our students, we've done that before, our students really, they all work. And so we're trying to do almost a college-like schedule. Like Chelsea said, while the hands-on components aren't necessarily on the test, it's engaging the students, they're getting that applied factor, and then they're making the connections of, oh, this is what the scientific method is. And we've had I don't know what the exact percentage is, because I'm still working on it, but the success rate of students passing the science part of the GED is a problem. And the last thing I'll do, and I'll let Brian jump in, is in our state, once you complete all 4 exams, you obviously get your GED and those transcripts, but you're also awarded a state of Kansas high school diploma. So you walk away with both in our state, which is awesome.
I'm gonna let the main person actually.
Hi, everybody. I'm Beth Dugan. I am academic advisor for the adult ed program there at MATC. I actually graduated from Manhattan Tech, VOTech back then, 34 years ago. So if you'd asked me if I would be back at this
You
building.
were 7?
Yeah, I was. Thanks. I was smart back then. And so, when this came open, I jumped on it. As I was talking with Chris today, I love my job. I love seeing students succeed, and then I love seeing them move on into, getting into a program and then graduating from that. I've been there long enough now. I can see that happening. Many stories I can tell. We have had a student who had been caught up in a kind of gang situation, and she got out of that situation, the drugs and that, and she came to us and scared, skittish, I would say, and she has been, if you ask Jason York, the epitome of a student, it would be this student. She travels, she does all of her studies pretty much online. She's never had a late assignment. It's seeing things like that and hearing those kinds of things that students can do that. We've had a set of sisters from Chapman who have now gone through the classes. We just had a student today complete GED. He had dropped out of high school. He was so smart, he was bored in high school. Where do you go? And so he came to us, and within, would you say 2 months now, 3 months, he's now completed the GED. One of the barriers that the students face is finding money to pay for the test. They're $39 each. You can keep taking them until you pass them, but there's that barrier, that $39. For some of us in this room, most of us, that doesn't seem like a big thing, but if you're in a single parent home, mom's working 2 jobs, there's 4 or 5 siblings in that room, that home, that can be a total barrier. So I was actually able to find some funding to help him get through those 4 to complete today. So I'm really proud of him. He's actually not going to come to Manhattan Tech. He's going to go to K-State Salina and look at aviation. So I'm excited for that. But we do have several students that are taking other classes with this on different programs. So I always like to tell my students when I meet with them, I'm your biggest cheerleader, but if you're skipping class, not doing what you need to do, I'm coming after you. So, but it's just a little bit of what I do. I meet with the students before they start at orientation. I have a one-on-one with them. And then if that student wants to meet with me, we set up on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I check in with them. I go down and sit in Brian's class and, ramp the teacher up a little bit. But I come to Chelsea's class. I really enjoy going to the science. And science is not something that every child, I think even in high school, takes or enjoys, but it's a joy to see them in that classroom when they're working on that stuff. And when Rachel was teaching, I have to brag on her also, she incorporates a lot of music into her classroom learning. And I think that that's just a different type of learning, and it's been a great revenue for that.
And
Anybody
every
have
time a student
questions?
passes a GED, she sends an email out to us saying, guess what? And I always tell her it's the best news of the day.
And she really didn't say everything that she does. I mean, it is like, she's the main cog for all of us misfits that work under her, so.
If you've never experienced someone who's truly found their calling in a job career, right there.
Yeah, have I not sat in your office, Jim, and said, that is the one, we found it.
I think you said you were gonna give half your paycheck.
That sounds great. After all that,
There you go. So, just have got a personal interest in this myself as well, because my brother-in-law, actually, he got his GED. And then he went through the EPD program, actually he was in the same class as our current instructor. And, he got his journeyman license, and during Hurricane Katrina, he was making 6 figures. So my wife, who has her MBA, he lets her know that he still makes more than she makes. So, I got to see, and I say the story to all my students because I tell them, you know, when they're in my classroom, I said, I've formatted my math class like a college class.
Yeah, same.
And I said, I expect every one of you to go to college. And, you know, I've gotten the comments of, are you being serious, Mr. Cook? And I'm like, yeah. I said, every one of you is gonna do it. And one I'm gonna use an example of is actually Mr. York's class as well. She was in my class, and I even told her, I said, that first look you gave me the first day of class, you did not want to be here. She's like, no, I didn't. And she was, by the time she took her math test, she was doing the quadratic formula better than my college algebra students. One of the best students I had seen probably go through the GED program. And she came back, she was gonna tell the class about how she passed the test. And I said, let me introduce you to our business teacher, he's right next door. Went over and talked to him, and I think it was either the next day or the day after that, signed up for summer classes. Took, I don't remember what, 3 during the summer, doing a part-time job. And we said the story at the HLC meeting, because Jason was there, was able to elaborate a little bit more that I didn't know, but went through in less than a year, got a job with Aaron McKee at Purple Wave, and actually has been there about a year and has already been promoted once. So, you know, when we were talking about the mission for the college, I told HLC, I said, there's the epitome of our mission. Went from adult ed to our general education classes, business program, to working in the public and now promoting, and I'm sure we'll probably, you know, finish out our associates sometime. So, I mean, that's kind of like the picture that, you know, Beth paints every student that walks through that door. There are times when I swear that student is about ready to, you know, I'm done. Go see Beth. They'll go see Beth and they'll come back and they're different. I don't know what she gives them. But as long as it works, it's all right. Yeah.
Candy.
Yeah, candy. But, you know, I think one of the things, and is I liked seeing Chris's face on this one when we were at the state conference, and Chelsea, you were there. And one of the main speakers goes, gee, the adult education is not college. Those college professors, they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know how to teach.
They don't know how to teach. And I looked at Chris and Chris just went,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Because I think we are the only adult ed that has college professors for all of the, you know, all the different strands. It was great having Chelsea pick up the science, because originally it started out as Rachel was critical studies English, I was math science. Well, math is its own, I mean, usually that's one of the biggest barriers students have.
That's the hardest one.
It's the hardest one for them. And when she was able to take that on, it saved me a ton of time and stuff I couldn't even reach. I was just hoping I gave enough math that they could, you know, go through science. So with her picking that up, I mean, I think we have a leg up. Another thing, we work with Neosho County, that teacher, we talk one-on-one, we email back and forth, we're Facebook friends now. I mean, if I get the HLC guy's phone number.
Keep going.
But with that, one of the reasons I'm bringing it up is we're now talking about math pathways. One of the things that they're wanting to do is they're wanting to get rid of basically intermediate and beginning algebra, and they want students to already struggle with math, take 2 classes, and do a co-requisite class.
They're not getting rid of, the state will no longer give any
Give
formula
funding,
funding
yeah.
for intermediate algebra or lower. You can still offer it,
Which
or
we're
we will.
maybe planning on, yeah. And when I told that to the Neosho teacher, she goes, that's gonna be all of our basketball players. So, you know, and I think that's gonna be across the
It's a
nation.
significant portion of students.
Yeah, and that's why what Chris was saying is probably maybe even an underestimate of what we could potentially have. And when we told Beth that, she jumped under the table, in the fetal position, but, it is one of those things, we're actually gonna have a meeting that I volunteered us for tomorrow with Hector, the director of adult ed. And, we're gonna kind of talk about what, because here's what I found funny. We're in the K-Board meeting, you got all these higher up K-Board people, and, they go, well, we're gonna put the ones that don't meet the code requisites into adult ed. So I, of course, couldn't stay quiet, and I said, so that means that we're gonna have to test them and then give them the tape test. And then we have to give another tape test at the end to see the significant gain to get funding, right? We don't know. So they don't even know anything about a program they're trying to push students into. And Pamela sat through one of the math pathways meetings, and I thought she was gonna need therapy after. And I got into it with one of the K-Board guys, and luckily Pamela goes. Cause they were basically, he was trying to say we weren't a college. I mean, and those such words. Tech math is not a math program, it's not a math class, college class. And I take my students, you say stuff bad about my students, my program, I'm gonna react. So I basically said, no, tech math gets our students ready to be successful in their job in the program of all the fields we have on campus. It does not prepare for college algebra, which they don't need. I said, do you understand that? And he was kind of like, well,
Okay, a shortened version.
and you should see Carrie's face because she was laughing too, so. Yes, long story short, there's a lot of stuff that's gonna be coming down the pike as far as with that, with the math pathways. But as far as like for the adult ed, I could not be more proud of being a teacher of any program other than adult ed. And seeing all those students walk across the stage, that's great, because when I was at Manhattan High, one of the things I didn't know is that they couldn't take a 5th year of high school. They went 4 years, if they didn't pass, I was like, I asked the security guard, I said, what do? They leave. I was like, there's no 5th year, not unless they're on IEP. So that was why I think the adult ed program was started, is because they had so many students that didn't pass that 5th year, they just pushed them through. Yeah, or whatever, so.
We'll give you more on math pathways down the road. The funding doesn't go away until fall 26. So more to come. But again, adult ed is a gem for MATs.
One more question, sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
How much time does it take for you guys to put this grant together?
A lot.
A lot?
I've essentially blocked every morning from next week to January and also work on it.
Is that maybe a conversation with USD 383 about maybe helping with that side of things? Sharing the overhead, somebody that can help write grants or do something like that to take that burden off of you.
Possibly, we've had some discussion, but the issue lies, a lot of the state, the data and everything, it goes through me. And so it would probably end up being a little more time with me, because I'd have to try and give all that information to someone else to do it, so. I'm fine, I've written this grant before, I wrote it in 2018 when I first got here, so I'm pretty comfortable with it. It is just time consuming.
Our next meeting will probably have a session to discuss some of those things a little more deeply.
Okay.
There is a method to math.
All right, I did not see anything on the agenda with partnerships or outreach. Is that something we just need to kind of skip past?
It's just something that will be on the agenda.
Okay.
We don't need to do anything on that.
Fundraising.
Yeah, so I think you have an attachment to the current balances of funds in the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation that are our foundation. And it's broken out scholarships versus non-scholarships, just to let you see where things stand. Harry and I are working on, raising more money for the ATC to get that paid off, scholarship dollars. However, raising scholarship dollars, yes, it's important, but it's not as important as you might think for one reason. 2 years ago, the legislature approved the Kansas Promise Scholarship for 2-year colleges for the work. We identify the programs that we're going to use the funds for. It doesn't affect every program. In last fiscal year, we gave out $470,440 in scholarships to the Promise Scholarship. It's the last dollar in to keep students from taking out loans. So they have to apply for financial aid, they get Pell Grants, other scholarships, then this comes in. The Promise Scholarship has a clause in it that you have to live in the state and then work in the state for at least 2 years, or you may be asked to repay the funds. That's a bigger issue around the colleges on the border. It's not an issue for us. So far for this fall, last year was a total of 470,000. This fall, she's awarded almost 392,000. And it affects we're able to use it for students in HVAC, RN program, auto tech, construction tech, line, industrial engineering tech, medical lab tech, PN, nursing, and welding. So it's covering 9 of our programs right now. So, as I've shared with Harry, this gives us the opportunity to go for more money for the building and other projects. It's not that we're going to ignore scholarships, but as long as the state's providing that support, it buys us some time. Because I want to keep building up that relationship with employers, city, et cetera, on other ways they can help us. But I wanted you to see this breakdown that we do have in GMCF through our foundation, but the Promise Scholarship is filling a huge gap. By this year, we'll go well over $500,000 in scholarships just from that.
And the legislature will look at it again next year.
It's kind of like Excel and CTE. It's been very successful, and that's what they're wanting. Be glad to answer any questions, but I'll give you more updates as we go through the legislature on that. But we're doing a pretty good job with scholarships.
Any other questions or comments on fundraising? All right, governance monitoring reports.
Right, these are required reports, as you know, so that you will need action on these. Either individually or collectively. The one that's due this month, achievement of ends, you'll know we put a note in that is based off our AY report that Kim just finished with the regents for last fiscal year. We've given that data. All 7 tech colleges are working with Lightcast, an economic modeling agency we've worked with before, to give us an economic impact analysis that we'll collectively and individually use with the legislature. When we get that report, that will become the achievement events, because it will give you a good breakdown of the impact. So that one will be delayed, but the other 3, we do need action on to go through.
So the first one is just the budgeting, financial planning, forecasting, report, and you can kind of read through it. It's essentially the same, as it is last year. Just, the president will not allow for budgeting that contains too little information, plans the expenditures in a fiscal year for more funds that are projected to be received that year. And then just goes into a little more detail about how this year, which is similar to last year, the budget was composed of tiered and non-tiered per Kennedy's capital outlay. As well as the base operating grant was the majority of our revenues. It just gives the breakdown for this year's capital outlay funds, which was the 376,000, and this year it is a 100% match, which we have accounted for in the budget. And then just the breakdown then that we have budgeted for the audit this year, which is, it's a little higher, same as it was last year, but just a little bit higher because of the funds we received, from ARPA, so that might cost about $20,000. Legal fees, we've estimated to be about $45,000, and then $500 per board.
On the officer budget expenses related to the financial statement and legal fees and whatnot, is that all pretty much based upon historical past history? I mean,
We do help our attorneys.
yeah. Ready to entertain motions on these individually?
It's up to you. You can do them individually or as a package. It's either way.
Let's go ahead and vote on this, and I'll entertain a motion to approve what's been presented regarding the budgeting, financial planning, and forecasting attachment.
So moved.
There's a second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, financial condition, attachment 8.
Yeah, and so I kind of already touched base on this previously, but so this will just be focusing on the Q1 actuals as of 9/30/2024. And then just, as I stated earlier, we're on track with the revenues that we've projected to receive, and we're also on track with our expenditures. We haven't overspent in, any of these categories. We are in good shape, and on track to set aside the $500,000 in reserves this year.
So Jim, based upon your interactions with the state and K-Board and whatnot, are you anticipating or seeing any changes taking place with regard to base operating grant or capital outlay funds or anything like
The
that?
regents approved everything we proposed with the exception of the apprenticeship business engagement funds that we've had this year through K-Board. K-Board has asked that go through the State Department of Commerce. Other than that, whole package still in the K-Board budget goes to the governor. The other day, the legislative leaders announced they don't care what the governor proposes, they'll do their budget, but we have good support there. In addition to the base operating grant, which we're hoping to get into statute this time, our proposal on outcomes funding was approved by the regents to go in our ask as a pilot for the tech colleges. We modified what Texas has done with their 2-year colleges. And State Representative Howe, think of that because it gets Steve, but not his last name. Steve Howe, who from Salina, who has been chair of the House Higher Ed Budget Committee. And we think he'll stay in that position, but he is the one that's been asking, what do you need next? So that's why we did the outcomes funding. If that goes through as we proposed, that could be an additional anywhere from $400,000 to $800,000 for us per year beyond the base operating. So right now, state budget overall is good. We're in pretty good shape. So, cautiously optimistic. The base operating is pretty solid.
What's the timeline on when they would take action on that in the
Well,
legislature?
We're going to be prepping them this fall, legislative leaders. And it's kind of waiting until they go into session, and if they ignore the governor's budget, then what are their steps in the legislative side to put the budget together? That's where Steve Howe comes in real handy. We'll know more after next week's election, and then a few more weeks go by until we see who the Senate puts in the leadership position of the committee.
But ultimately, it's at the end of the session.
Yeah.
11th hour stuff.
Yeah.
But financially, we're in better shape than we've ever been.
Awesome.
I have a question on the financials. Sorry, I missed this earlier. How or why program course expense is nearly double?
Yes, that's something I meant to touch on earlier. So the program expenses, when we are building out the budget, we're kind of looking at almost worst case scenario, like how much are you going to need for your program if your enrollment is as high as you think it possibly could be, and that's how we have to build the budget, just because we don't have those enrollment numbers at that time. So then what we do, so that's, based off highest enrollment. So then as we start getting numbers in, we essentially only release half of the budget to those faculty members. And so that way we're budgeted worst case, but we expect it to come in lower.
Any other questions or comments on the financial condition?
Just,
Dave?
I got one question, comment. I know it's probably a big ask to try and come up with a balance sheet. But for new members, including myself, I didn't even know we had $1 million sitting in a CD. I think it would be nice to have at least some sort of assets and liabilities bullet points, not necessarily the whole enchilada of what every, campus is worth. But I think knowing a few of those bullet points would be helpful to the board.
And the audit is in progress. Tim has met with the auditors and I have Karen working with them. Our auditors have been with us forever, which is good. They're very good at what they do, but they've seen how we've made changes and improvements. And one of the things I shared with them is keep driving that, but to also let you know that we keep getting better and better, but we still have a long ways to go, but we're better. The funny thing, when they came in my office to the meeting, they said, the first thing out of their mouth was, "What are you dreaming of next?" So I guess I have that reputation. But I've told them, don't hesitate to give us information to share with the board in that audit report. What do we need to do next? One of the things we are looking at, we're anticipating a position change. And we've asked Kara to look at it. It was not a full-time position. We're looking at going to full-time, with part of it being assigned to Kara to give her more support, pull her out of the weeds a bit more, which is what the auditors want. So again, with these reports, plus what's coming through with the auditors, we've built over the years this good relationship with them that keeps driving us to improve. So please keep pushing that.
Maybe for the next month meeting, you could kind of put together some kind of a draft of
like some
kind
kind
of
of
presentation and what Brett has referenced, and at least give us something to review, and we can kind of maybe fine tune it from there.
Yeah.
Going forward.
Yeah, that sounds good. This is a great first step.
So debts, total assets, just bullet, high level list, start there.
Yeah, I think a big one would be, the reserves that you mentioned.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we've been chatting about, breaking that reserve set out into a totally separate account.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I
it's
think
easy to
when-
track.
When our $1 million CD matures early next spring, and we're just gonna essentially open up a new bank account that we can always just have that as our reserve, so we always have an exact figure of reserves.
And Brett, for their benefit, I don't know if this was maybe a meeting that you didn't attend. I do remember there being a comment made or some conversation about the $1 million CD. At a
Yeah, I
previous
was here
meeting,
last-
so
at the last
maybe
meeting.
that's
That
what it
probably
was.
was it, yeah.
So you have $1 million CD with one bank?
Yes.
So if that bank goes under, you're screwed. Pretty much. Okay, just checking.
A lot of things in Manhattan will be in trouble if that bank goes on.
Just
But
saying.
yeah, I know.
You know,
I guess we need to, I need to have a motion to approve the financial condition attachment 8 as presented.
So move with comments.
Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, compensation benefits attachment 9.
Peter put this together, I think, in consultation with Kara, but again, it's related to what's required in our board governance. And we've done a pretty good job, I think, of keeping as competitive as we can be, looking at options.
Any further discussion? I entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
So the achievement of ends will probably hit you in January.
Okay, so we'll skip that for this meeting. Jim, President's report.
Got it. I guess I'd be more interested in you and Brett sharing the chamber retreat a little bit the other day. We had pretty good kudos, but I think we were gonna be getting a pretty clear direction from the chamber and city of what we need to do.
Yeah, I was really impressed and pleased to hear some of the comments that were made at the chamber retreat by Jason Smith of the chamber and sorry.
Matt.
Yeah, right, so I think, you know, there was a lot of positivity surrounded by that, and I think just from a general branding and image standpoint, I think getting a lot of credibility, a lot of good reputational positives out of that.
Did you share with these guys what Matt Carlton said?
No. I've shared with staff.
So I'll toot your horn for you, I'll toot all your guys's.
It's our horn,
Yeah.
it's collected.
So Matt Tarleton, he is a economist that the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce hired to come in and help do a bunch of analytics on just everything across the board about Manhattan and how to improve. And they were comparing us to Columbia, Ames, Morgantown, and Stillwater. And so he's been across the United States and looked at, other cities and chambers, and he said Manhattan Tech is a gem from anywhere in the United States, and thought that was such a plus for the city of Manhattan. So just congrats, this wasn't something from somebody in Manhattan that already knows about it. It's from an outsider that came in and saw what an asset you guys are to Manhattan. So hats off to you guys.
And he's got a couple policy recommendations that the plan is approved about how does the chamber and city work with us to customize training, to incentivize training, which Jason spoke to me a little bit later, and I've got a meeting with Pat Carlton in 2 or 3 weeks. So yeah, we're positioned in a good place. The other thing, as I mentioned in the report, I had a good meeting with President Littner and the provost, Dr. Perez. We'll be following up. I think we will finally make a breakthrough on some collaborative agreements on co-enrollment. Some potential pathway agreements for certain programs without affiliated, instead of working together. So.
Anything else you want to add on the president's report?
So I think everything's in there. It's busy.
All right.
Oh, one last.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Between yesterday and today, there is a group of us working with Dreamscape Learn, Dreamscape out of Arizona State University. We were there this summer on AI, VR, AR. But we are entertaining discussions with them on potential partnership in certain programs so that we can advance that. And as we are sitting here, somewhere Andrew is pulling the trailer back from North Carolina. It's getting pretty close, I think.
I was gonna ask, we're
It'll be here soon. So hopefully we can do a little tour of that in December.
All right.
So you don't know where Andrew is right now.
Somewhere, probably somewhere in Kentucky. Way out here.
He's out to break a speed record. We're like, whoa.
We should have put a live 360 on it.
So it is. It is not underwater.
Yeah.
No,
He's
it's good to go.
He's concerned.
Any other general agenda items we need to cover today? What about, got on here, board process review?
That's part of what's in the governance manual. So I was trying to make sure we're covering all these things. So it's, if there's anything we need to discuss related to the board and our process, we can always bring it up. We are very, I'll speak for senior admin in particular, but we are very happy to have all of you. The questions you give us, I know we've got to have some time to talk sometime. I made the mistake of asking one of you, maybe I need to get my foot off the gas, and I was told no. So the rest of you've been warned. But we're in a really good position and we worked hard to get here, so.
Yep. Agreed.
I guess one question, as Josh was talking about projects, we all have our own skill set that we're experts in, and you all have your own skill set that you're experts at, like utilize us if you need us, and you're talking about meeting with Olson. Well, Brett or I'm sure we would be more than happy to sit in at those meetings as an owner's rep and to help explain or to help come back to the board. And help answer those questions. I mean, sometimes I feel useless and I'm like, that's someplace that I could be useful, so, ask me about numbers or whatever, but, you know, we're here to be an advocate and to help you all, so let us help you all.
I was hoping they were gonna come back with a recommendation that we need to demolish 700.
So as far as like process, I don't, like, I know there's this whole thing about overstepping, I have no interest in any of that, but I do wanna be helpful, so is, you know, as you start projects or diving into things, whatever it may be, you know, reach out to us, need help,
Be a resource.
be a resource, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I don't wanna speak for the rest of y'all, sorry, but.
No, well said. We'll take you on that, all of you.
I'm assuming we don't have need for an executive session.
No,
Is this like 3 in a row?
No.
We have.
Also, you had one in September.
Yeah, you are here, so it's 3 in a row for you.
And then the general reminder here at the end that the November and December board meetings will be combined into one on the 3rd of December.
It's Neil's birthday. We should have cake.
Unless something comes up, but if something comes up, we'll get it over here. We need to Zoom or anything else, but.
Did we have it at Greenwich Coliseum?
Game that night.
They're very expensive.
Football tickets?
Yeah.
No, they're not. Not yet, anyways.
Not yet.
Looked at them for graduation once.
I was, they were trying.
Or maybe entertain a little earlier start time or something if that